biography before he speaks. Yeah.
Yes, Donald. All the floor is yours.
Okay, so all right. So I'll read a brief biography of Mr. Donald Brown. So Mr. Donald Brown is a renowned sculptor, a peace advocate, director and founder of the Global Gallery Limited. He's also a notable athlete who won a gold medal for Britain in the year 2015. He has won other medals. The Millennium Monument by Donald Brown aims to position positive images from the African diaspora to the world. The Millennium Monument movement seeks to unite all people and to help create a fairer world. The Millennium Monument is the work of art at the forefront of this movement, designed and created by award-winning sculptor Donald Brown. Donald gained worldwide endorsements and interest from celebrities and organizations, many with affiliations to the United Nations. In the year 2016, he was recognized by Fortune magazine as one of the top 20 game changers for his work. While Donald has many achievements to his name, he was a sporting chance for peace sculpture. It was a sporting chance for peace sculpture that further fueled his desire to create a positive change and with nations uniting in protest against injustice. Donald hopes to celebrate the rise of true equality through the Millennium Monument. With peace in our hearts and with enthusiasm, we warmly welcome Donald Brown to make his presentation.
Thank you very much, Okpeme. And Jean-Paul, thank you also for your welcome. And good evening indeed to everyone. I've not yet had the pleasure of engaging with all of you, but thank you very much for being on this call so we can all interact, network, and share the vision and mission of so many wonderful individuals around the world. As you can see, I have what's probably written back to front, my Great Britain sports gear on. As Jean-Paul said, yes, I spent many years. In fact, I went to America for 2 weeks, spent 10 years there. So hence Jean-Paul obviously referring to me as being in America. I am back in England and I've been here for quite some time now. And I would like to, first of all, applaud and acknowledge the vision and the mission that you're pursuing, because there are many of us around the world that are trying to achieve peace in various ways. And it was great for me to hear Udak talk about the competitions with art and how the competition is helping to promote that to our young people. The purpose, I think, for myself, my vision is to pursue my passions. My passion, well, I have many passions, two of which are art and sports. And so I thought to myself, well, how can I combine these two passions to address peace? And as Okpeme mentioned, one of the sculptures that I've created is called A Sporting Chance for Peace. And that is the one I really want to just focus on at this particular time for this particular presentation. So Okpeme, if you could bring up that first photograph so that people can see exactly what that sculpture looks like. And as you do that, I can share with those in attendance that this particular sculpture, if we can enlarge that slightly, it features so many different sports, from hurdles, athletics, basketball, skiing, tug of war, American football, high jump, surfing, you name it. And so with this particular sculpture, I won't go into the whole meaning of it because of time, but within the sculpture, when you have an opportunity to look at it closely, you will see a hurdler. And the hurdler represents the many obstacles we have in life to overcome. But when you take a closer look at the hurdle actually extends into a javelin. So the hurdle becomes a javelin, which points into the direction of the hurdles that we're overcoming. So the question I'm asking there is, which hurdles are we overcoming? The hurdles that will create conflict or the hurdles that will create peace? And the message, again, also goes on to say that overcoming hurdles is part of the cycle of life. And if you look in the sculpture above, you'll see the cyclist. And the cyclist represents that the hurdles that we entertain or have to endure in life are going all the way through life, and we have to ensure that we overcome them. So the sculpture basically has so many different stories within it. You will see towards the right-hand side in the center, you might see the surfer surfing the ocean waves. The surfer represents balance, having a balance in life and knowing how to engage the various principles that we learn through sports. Now, this is a very important point. So many young people develop wonderful and very credible personal skills through sports. Through sports, you have to be disciplined. You have to be patient. You have to be a good team player. You have to be a good team leader. There are so many patience that you have to engage in terms of being good at your sport. And so the challenge that we have is that when these young people or people in general encounter conflict on the streets, can they transfer those skills that they've developed through sports to squash those conflicts? And so this particular sculpture really sort of gives many lessons and stories of how we can utilize those principles that we have in life. If you can scroll up to the next photograph. If we could, there we go. This, you can see here, I had the mayor of the then mayor of Birmingham here in England, and Councillor Anita Ward. She placed the very first piece of clay onto a board. And as you can see, I invited members of the audience to do likewise. And when I talk about placing a piece of clay, I spell the word P-E-A-C-E. Why? Because I want to really promote the concept of promoting peace, and how even though our lives can sometimes be a muddy mess, if we cultivate and promote the right principles of life, we can convert our lives from a muddy mess into a masterpiece. P-E-A-C-E, play on words. If you can scroll to the next one, thank you, Kwemi. And what you'll see now, you'll see the beginning and the development of the sculpture from one photograph to another. As more pieces of clay are placed on, I took the sculpture to various locations throughout England so that different people around the country could place a piece of clay onto the sculpture. The next one, please. The next one you will see now, continuing, there we go. Continue a bit more, a little bit more, thank you. You'll see the sculpture now developing more to the advanced level where you can see, for example, the second one down, you see an American football player. And the American football player is holding on tight to the ball. And the ball represents our goals and dreams. And the message here is no matter who attacks us, we should hold on to our goals and dreams. Don't let anyone dissuade you from pursuing your goals and dreams. Beside the American footballer to the right, you see the ski jumper. The ski jumper represents and reminds us that whatever goes up must come down. My message there is be careful not to step on anyone on your way up, because they might be the very same people you need on your way down. So as you can see, the actual sculpture has so many messages and lessons within it. If we skip down to the lower one, the third one down on the left, you will see the horse and jockey. The horse and jockey represents failure. We will fail, we will fall. But the key here is not to stay down. If we fail, if we fall, the key objective is to get back up in the saddle and try again. So this again gives you more of the lessons that are sort of infused within the sculpture. So just to continue, just to show you the finished piece again, which is the same as the first picture you saw. So that is the entirety of the sculpture. If we can continue to the next one. And what I've now done, and this fits in nicely with what Udak was talking about in terms of artists. What I now do, I have developed a program called Project Airwaves. And what I'm doing there is holding artists accountable for the messages they send through their creative airwaves. There are so many brilliant artists, but many of them are pursuing and creating works that promote violence, sexuality, profanity. And so they are effectively polluting the creative airwaves. And so what I'm doing here is to create Project Airwaves, where I'll be employing artists to go into schools to work with students and staff to create works of art against violence in order to elevate society. The word airwaves is the acronym for Artists in Residence Working Against Violence Elevates Society. If you can scroll to the next line, please. You can see some of the students I'm working with. If you continue to the next picture, you'll see some of the artwork where we use hands, because hands can promote peace or violence. The next picture, please. Here we have the artist, one of the students there, creating at the hands where they're showing new technology, and how even through new technology, as wonderful as it is, cyberbullying is something that is very rife. And so promoting peace through the technology is also something we want to also embrace. And the next picture, please. And this one shows a clock which talks about time. Once we've created violence, we cannot turn the clock back. And so it's important for us to utilize our time wisely. The next picture, please. I'm also using art as a form of therapy. This is something that's very important that I believe Udak may well certainly share my views on, that art can be used in so many ways to promote therapy and peace. Here we have a young lady, Irene, I believe her name is, her son, unfortunately, passed. He collapsed in school and he passed. And so they brought me in to use art as a vehicle to promote therapy. And so his mother here is helping to create a sculpture. If you scroll to the next picture, you will see his father. His name is Terry, the father, and the son who passed, his name is Aidan. And so the parents together started to work with me to create a sculpture. If we go to the next picture, you will see the students that came together were very close friends of Aidan, who sadly passed. You can see here, the head is now created. If we scroll to the next picture, you will see the head and shoulders and the chest are now created. If we scroll on, here you will see now they're working on bridging that chest and putting it all together collectively. And as we went through this session, we talked about his life, and it was a great way to reminisce and remind each other of the great child and student and friend that he was. The next picture, please. There you see them continuing to work, and it's taking more shape. The next picture. And you can see yours truly now putting my 2 cents worth onto it. And the next picture, please. And you can begin to now see the sculpture. If we can scroll up. Thank you. You can just see a picture of him in the scroll down. There we go. And the sculpture now begins to take shape. And finally, you can see the next picture, how the actual sculpture turned out. And this is the young man that sadly passed. And the response we had from the entire school was absolutely phenomenal. When we unveiled it, there were tears, there were hugs, and it was a great opportunity for me to use art to promote a peace where there was grief, a peace where there was torment, a peace where there was the pressure and the suffering, and a way to use art to remove and address that. If we can scroll on further, just to give you just a few indications, just a few of the individuals that Jean-Paul referred to. This is Ban Ki-moon, the former UN president of the United Nations. He received that particular sculpture that I created. If we scroll on, you'll also see another one, the same sculpture. The next picture, please. Presented to LL Cool J. As you can see, they're holding the sculpture. And the next sculpture, the next picture, please. You will see Naomi Campbell, also a recipient of that particular sculpture. And the final sculpture picture we have, the man himself. You can scroll up. Lawrence Fishburne. Can we just scroll that if it's possible? Okay, there might be a slight hitch there. But Okpemi, thank you so much. Appreciate that. There we go. Thank you very much for that. And so what I'm doing here is using art, and you can remove those pictures now. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it, Okpemi. So for me, it is about using art and sport as a vehicle to promote health and wellness. And I think Jean-Paul alluded to the idea of using art as a vehicle for health as well. And so for me, as an athlete, I'll be 59 this year, 59 years young, and still competing. Well, this year I've not competed and trained. My last competition was just before COVID in 2019, and I was in Madrid, and I was very pleased to become the triple European champion in the 100 meters, the 200 meters, and the hurdles. And earlier that year, I became the world champion in the hurdles. And so that was at the age of 56, sorry. So I'm 58 now and I'm turning 59. Whoa, time flies. But here's the thing. What's important for me is to make sure that whatever gifts and talents that I have, and a message for everyone, whatever gifts and talents we have, to use them wisely. Don't take your talents to the grave. They were given to you for a reason. And so what I want to do here in sharing my mini, if you will, synopsis with you is to encourage everyone to use whatever gifts that you have. And I love to see what UDAC is doing with the competitions. There is so much to share with you. Let me end on this point. The project that I'm doing is an anti-bullying campaign. I'm doing various projects. Okpeme mentioned the Millennium Monument. That's another project. But for the purpose of this presentation, I just want to finish on the anti-bullying campaign, where I will be using that particular sculpture, the A Sporting Chance for Peace sculpture, to spearhead a global campaign, in part to have a large version of that sculpture in all United Nations countries around the world, to unite people together to promote and raise the awareness of peace and bullying and violence. And part of the revenue that I'll be generating through this particular campaign will go towards employing artists to go into schools as part of Project Airwaves. A percentage will go towards employing therapists to conduct therapy sessions for victims of bullying and violence, and so much more. And the final point that I will make, hopefully I'm not going over time, the final point that I will make is the Righting the Wrongs competition. Now, that is something that everyone can be a part of. And in a nutshell, it's very simple. Not everyone can sculpt, not everyone can paint or draw or do graphics, but the majority of people, they can write. And so the objective of this competition is to simply submit one quote, a sentence or two, that in some way addresses something wrong that can be made right. As I said before, a sentence could be, don't take your talents to the grave, they were given to you for a reason. And that addresses the issue, because it is wrong to have talent and not use it. And so the good thing is to use it wisely. So for example, with the competition, you can enter a sentence, and the actual sentences will be, the quotes will be voted on online by people worldwide. The winning quote will be printed on t-shirts and sold worldwide. The winner of the competition, the author of the quote, will receive royalty payments, and that can range from anything from 10,000 up to over 2 million, depending on the quantity of t-shirts. But what that does, it also generates revenue that can support various other humanitarian projects. And so I would love to speak at length more so with Jean-Paul and indeed Okpeme to find out how possibly maybe this particular competition can help to generate funds and support and advance your vision and mission of what you're doing. So thank you very much for your time. I don't know if we have time for more any questions, but I'm open to receive them and answer if we do have the time. So thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Donald. Absolutely beautiful. What beautiful work you're doing. And I think that final challenge is something that we can adopt as a group here and extend it to all our networks and see how we can get as many quotes as possible into the system. It's absolutely beautiful to do that. So I extend this to everybody. Gratitude to you, and I'm sorry that I misplaced you to the United States with Great Britain written all over you.
It's okay, no problem at all.
All right. We are already running late, so this is obviously normal as a online, a live type of thing, and we have so many interesting people here. So if you don't mind, Donald, if anybody has any questions to Donald specifically, use the chat, and use the chat also to extend your emails to each other, like everybody is doing already, but you can do that yourselves also. Also, if you have some personal stories that you would like to share with the people, use the chat so that we know who you are and where we can find you. So please use the chat as possibly, and you can also download the chat at the end of whenever you want by pressing the 3 dots on the chat so that you can save it for yourself. At the end of the story, I will try to save this chat myself so that if anybody needs it, then you can still have it. I stop this recording.